So today we're going to be doing a review on two different size small parts organizers that you can pick up from Harbor Freight. But before we do that, I was wanting to show y'all the way I've been doing it the last 4 or 5 years and kind of giving y'all some pros and cons on both of those, and maybe to help you if you decide to buy one of these for yourself. So this is a setup that I have been using for the last 4 to 5 years. It's the Harbor Freight Storehouse brand. Each pack is going to cost somewhere around $12 for 20 of these bins. And the good thing about the bins, the front is kind of open just in case you decide to stack these on top of each other. You'll be able to access what's inside of it pretty easy. Another thing that comes in the pack is 5 of these mountain rails, and they basically act like a French cleat system. So the container just hangs on those. Now, I wouldn't mount those too close to the one above it to where it's going to interfere with you getting those on and off. Another thing that I like about these, they are portable. So if you need to work somewhere else in the shop and this area is not convenient to where you're working, you can just take them off and take them to where you're at. And then when you are finished, you can just hang them back on the wall. As far as setup, they're fairly easy to put up. Like I said, you just want to make sure you have enough room between the bins that you can access them and take those in and out with no problem. Another thing that I would do is I'd mount all these bins on a separate board. That way, if you ever rearrange your shop and this area is not convenient to where you need these, you can unscrew that whole board and just move it to a different location, fasten it back up without having to deal with each one of these tracks individually. Another good thing about these bins, on the front there is a groove made where you can put a label in the front, and you don't necessarily have to tape these on if you don't want to. That way later if you need to rearrange them, you just slide it back up out of that groove and you can move it to whatever bin you need to move it to. So one of the things that I see people complain about is the way these stack on top of each other. They're supposed to kind of lock into a groove on the one below it. Now, I don't use these like that, so it wasn't really a deal breaker for me, but I have saw a lot of people complain about that. One thing that made me reconsider how I was going to store my small parts, a lot of the nuts and bolts and screws that I have are really small. I don't really keep a lot of them, so I was wanting to try to find something that had multiple sizes of containers in it where I could keep those and maybe not waste quite so much space, because I found myself putting several different items in each one of these boxes, and then over time you just kind of lose count of what you got and you wind up rebuying it because it's hard to find. Another thing that was a deal breaker, these boxes are going to catch a lot of sawdust depending on where you got them located. Mine is right behind my workbench and close to my table saw, so it catches all that sawdust, especially if I'm using the router or sander. It just cakes up in there, and then it's just a mess to dig your screws out. And that was probably the biggest thing that made me decide on looking at other options to try to do that. Otherwise, this is a pretty good setup, and I think if you're working in an environment where it's not real dusty and all, and the size fits for you, then this might be a pretty good setup. So now I'm going to show y'all another option that you can use to store your small parts in. Now this is a Storehouse brand, also from Harbor Freight. I've got the large size that's around $13. I also have a medium size that's $9, I think. Sometimes you can catch that one on sale for $6. But I want to show y'all everything that I keep inside of it and how each one of those bins on the inside of it kind of work with each other, and some of the different options that you have with that. And I'm also going to show y'all how to get that stupid label off that medium size box without messing the lid up. So this is my setup with the small part organizers. I have got 7 of the medium-sized bins and 3 large ones. Now having quite a few of these will let you kind of organize and customize this a little bit better for the supplies you got. Like these O-rings is small, and I don't have many of each one of them, So I was able to take some of the small bins from the other ones and put back there in that one. Another thing that I like about these, it's got the clear lid. It helps keep the sawdust out. It also helps you see what's inside the container better. And actually with these yellow bins, it actually helps you see what's inside of them better. Some of these I saw have darker colored insides, and it's kind of hard to see what's in them. So I thought that was pretty handy. Another thing, it's got a molded handle on it that feels pretty good to the grip. It's got 2 latches out on the front that, so far I've had these about a month or so, and they seem to all lock in pretty good. It also has a lock right there on the inside the handle. Some of those lock in pretty good, some of those don't. So I guess time will tell how that's gonna hold up. But each one of these has got 3 different size containers, and I will put that size up on the screen. And another thing that I thought was pretty handy, I probably won't use it like that, but you can take these containers out, close the lid, and if you had to tote it around with some of these containers missing, they won't slide around. Now the reason they won't, those round supports that are actually on the bottom also lets the legs of these compartments fit inside of them and keeps them from sliding from one side to the other. Thought that was pretty handy. Not sure if I ever use it like that, but thought that was pretty cool. So this is the larger size containers. They are the same as the smaller one, except for they only come with 2 different size containers in them. And also these are 4 inches deep, where the smaller one are 2 inches deep. I'll put the size of the containers up on the screen, but you can also customize these the same way you can with a small one. Now it don't give you quite as many options because you only had 2 different size containers in those, but the actual box and the lid on these are made exactly like the small ones. These are 4 inches deep, and the small ones are only 2 inches deep. So for the amount of money that you spend on these, I don't think there's another one out there that compares to these. And when I was looking for some, I wanted some with removable bins so I could kind of customize them the way I wanted. But with all the stuff on them that I actually do like, there is some drawbacks to these, and we're going to go over them now. So another drawback to these containers is the lid is kind of flimsy. I don't think that's going to be a problem with the way I use them, but also there is some guides on the top of this container that is made for the top of the boxes to fit in, and some of those boxes does not hold its shape, so it's not going to fit in those quite right. That's another issue with these. But then again, if you just use them for light duty work, I don't think that's going to be a big problem. So if you're just using these in the shop at home, I don't think you can go wrong with them for the price. There is a lot better ones out there, but they also cost a lot more. So I think for light duty work, these will work just fine. And one of the things that I see people complaining about the most is on this medium size, and that is the label that's on the lid. They stick it directly to the lid. I think if they stuck it to the plastic that these are wrapped in, it'd be much better. But the problem is they glue the whole label to the top, and they are aggravating to get off. Unlike the large size, has the label stuck with the glue only down one side. So at least that's all you have to deal with on those. But I'm going to show y'all how to get this label off. It comes off pretty easy, and I can show y'all how to get the glue off. It comes off pretty easy too. You don't want to scrape the top of these with a razor blade, because that razor blade is going to scratch the top up. So to get these labels off, we're going to be using a heat gun. You can pick this up from most any hardware store. We're going to also be using some Goo Gone to get the rest of that glue off. Just make sure you don't get too aggressive with a heat gun, because it don't take much heat to get these off, and it's super easy to mess one of these tops up. Alright y'all, so that is how easy it is to do it. And then next you're going to want to some weight on top of it, and I just set some more of these containers on it, kind of help hold it down until it cools down some. So we're going to let these containers sit on that one until the lid has time to cool off. That shouldn't take but just a couple minutes. But the good thing about the large containers, these labels come right off. It's obvious they must use some kind of glue that's different than those medium ones, and they only put it on one end. Alright y'all, so that was literally like maybe 2 minutes. We're going to get some goo gone, and all you got to do is just wipe on it. It's not going to take a whole lot. But just keep going over it. And eventually it would all come off. And take and kind of dry it off, just in case you miss some spots like we did. So that's all there is to taking these labels off of these containers. Just remember, don't get too aggressive with a heat gun and you should be okay. If y'all enjoy the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you hadn't already subscribed to the channel, don't forget to do that. And I'll see y'all on the next one.